Delighted to have Patrick Dunne, Director of Group Procurement, Property and Cost Transformation with me today. I hope I've got your title correct, Patrick.
Yeah, well, thereabouts. But
You
what's in a title, as they say?
Exactly. You answer to many things, I'm sure. But without further ado, Patrick, how did you get into procurement?
Procurement for me started at a very young age. Like many people, probably family business. When I was about 15, my father, I saw how he was buying building materials, and I started to help out. And then ultimately went on and did a degree in procurement, one of the first ever degrees in the late 80s, in the University of Ulster. So I got a very early itch for procurement, got excited about the commerciality of it, and yeah, went on from there, and no looking back since then. That was at the age of 14, 15.
Great story. I have to say that there's few and far between that people have actively studied procurement, so you must be one of the few.
Yeah, at the time, I remember going looking for universities that did procurement, and lo and behold, I'm from Northern Ireland. There only was a very limited number of universities. One was the University of Ulster in Jordanstown, just outside Belfast. And even that was a postgraduate course, so I had to do a degree, a non-business related degree first before I could do the postgrad. But that was, yeah, 1991. I graduated with a postgrad in procurement and supply chain management. So a long time ago, as they say.
You're clearly very passionate about procurement. What are you most passionate about when it comes to the profession?
Over the years, nearly 30 years in a corporate career, but it changes over time. Of course, my passion in the beginning was the commerciality of it, the value adding side of it. Probably in the second decade of my career, it was more around change management and the role procurement could bring to quite some big organizations and helping transform their future. I worked at Nissan for 10 years, where procurement was very much part of the Nissan revival. And companies like MFI and Boots, where again the sourcing and procurement was very much about changing the fortunes of those companies. And then more in the latter decades, which I'm in now, is all about teams and people and building great teams that make a difference in those business, again, commercially, but also seeing individuals within those teams go on to greater things. And, I always try and build teams that will succeed me and allow me to, I always say, read the newspaper day to day some days so that my team can run the show themselves, and that's really what gets me out of bed now in my later years, is building teams with great people in it who become the future leaders of procurement as well. And a little bit, Rupert, around, more in the last 5 years is looking at public sector procurement, how to help out there and, learn from public sector, but also share best practice and the procurement profession, helping the likes of SIPs and all, really think about, how it can attract talent and particularly, for the future, building a procurement profession beyond what it does today.
So that's a really interesting point, and it's lovely to hear that kind of evolution. What do you think the key focus areas are for procurement right now then?
Right now, wow. I think regardless of the industry or sector, and you can't avoid the pandemic. I always say there's two types of organization: those that have had to ramp down dramatically because their marketplace has disappeared in some cases, whether it be fashion, retail, etc., travel industry, entertainment industry, and those that have had to ramp up really, really rapidly. I'm in a sector like that, which is grocery, and so procurement, supply chain security, just getting securing supply has been a big focus, both for goods for resale, but goods not for resale. The likes of PPE is an example, that many will be aware of. So yeah, I think that has been an immediacy that will have long-term implications. The flexibility, agility of people's supply chains is in vogue at the moment, and I think procurement has a strong role. The sector that really interests me, I think, for the future is the role of procurement in the environment. Yes, we've all talked about sustainability, recyclability for years, but I think the carbon agenda particularly and particularly within my own business, Sainsburys, I help lead on the net zero program, how we will get to net zero carbon by 2040. And procurement has a big role to play in that, in terms of getting the innovation from our vendor base, working in partnership to bring better technologies to bear to improve our carbon footprint. And I think procurement can really step in there and play a very leading role, not just a support role, but actually I know in a number of companies and industries, procurement has actually taken the lead in some of those quarters. And in my own company, I think procurement is very much helping to lead on that front. So I think the environment, sustainability is the next frontier, I think, where procurement leaders can really excel.
I couldn't agree more. I think a 2019 Gartner report of global CPOs listed sustainability as one of their top 3 agenda points. And that has only accentuated over the last couple of years. Great to hear how procurement is front and centre with initiatives at Sainsburys. Are you at a place where you're sort of starting to shape roles that focus specifically on those initiatives?
No, I think I look after the property portfolio for Sainsbury's as well. So I have dedicated teams in property who really are focused on engineering innovation. I think in the procurement side, generally I expect all of my teams to really be focused on that. So what we're doing is changing some of the processes, how we source, and giving greater weighting to the environmental side of things, the innovation that comes, and even the behaviors of those companies, how they're behaving in the carbon, and not just taking it as lip service, looking for evidence that supports the sourcing approval process. I would say tacitly, we've all looked at the environment over the years, but now I think it's time for action, and it's time to really make strong commercial decisions on the back of people's actions in their own vendor base, and that's what we're focusing on as a function. We expect everybody to have it front of mind, and we expect our vendors working with us to be sharing innovation and helping us improve. But likewise, we want to see that they actually are doing it for themselves as well, across even without the Sainsbury's brand being attached to that company.
Yeah, that's really good to hear. As supporters of the Sustainable Procurement Pledge, that's something that's really close to our heart, and we've run some closed groups through the pandemic on that. So it's really good to hear that Sainsbury's has got that so high on their agenda. So thinking about you and your achievements in your procurement career, are there some sort of big ones in there that you'd like to share?
I've never been one that has laboured on going out to achieve things personally, but along the way I've collected a number of accolades over recent years, which is really, I celebrate them personally, but no, I don't dwell on them. I was Procurement Leader of the Year 2019 for SIPS. My team was Team of the Year both for SIPS, and the Procurement Leaders Award in 2020 was Team of the Year as well. So we're doing something right in Sainsbury's around the people agenda and the things we do.
Sure.
I think from a professional perspective, there's a lot of things over the years. Really the lasting achievement is that people remember who you are, even 20 years after you're in those companies, that you left some form of mark, hopefully good, but and I think while my roles have been many and different titles, procurement has been at the heart of it, and really putting procurement at the forefront of the commercial activities in those businesses has been for me the most the great, whether it be Walgreens in America, Boots in the UK, or even Nissan. When we joined with Renault, procurement was always put into the forefront of those. It may not have been when I arrived, but by the end of it, everybody knew what procurement was about and the value add that it brought to the businesses. And I think that is probably more for me to be celebrated than any individual accolade that comes with it.
I couldn't agree more. I think legacy is such an important thing. So
well, it's funny that nobody tells you when you're younger that it's the legacy that you leave behind. You think it's about the results that you achieve. It's only when you get to later years, and I was probably lucky, I'm not that old, but you realize it is about the people and what you leave behind rather than what you achieve when you're there, even though we all like to achieve great results when we're there as well. But no, if I had one piece of advice to up and coming CPOs is, think about as you get the job, think about the legacy you want to leave behind rather than what you're going to achieve yourself, you know.
Sage words, yeah, sage words. What inspires you, Patrick?
Oh, many things. Life in general. I'm a very positive person. I'm always looking for the next challenge, and so I think that's what inspires me. Really, is finding challenges in the day job. Going looking for things to help improve, to make better. But yeah, challenges in life in general is always looking for what the next frontier will look like, and it has to be exciting. It has to be that dynamic. I probably get a little bit bored when it becomes sort of mundane and 9 to 5. Not that anybody ever has that at the moment. Everything's a bit up in the air and a bit crazy. But yeah, it's that challenge. Always looking for the next frontier, the next challenge to achieve.
We'll come on to some of that a bit later, but what I know you touched on it there with regards to legacy. But what advice would you give someone who is embarking on a procurement career right now?
Well, the first thing I'd say, even if they're pondering what career, I would strongly advise them, think about procurement. Why? Because when you enter a business, the procurement gets access to all areas, and you will learn more about a business by doing procurement in 1 to 3 years than you'll probably learn for 10 years doing a functional role. And so, and also it can only open doors to you. It's very commercial. It's very, as I say, access all areas, but then you can go on to shape other careers beyond that if you so wish. Very rarely do people start in a functional career and reverse themselves into procurement. It does happen, but I say, that's why one of my passions with SIPs particularly is how do we get universities and high schools teaching people about the career that is procurement, because it does give you such a learning curve, a steep learning curve, but you do learn about business, operations, commerciality, legal. Not many functions touch all of those areas. And of course, it helps you in the change agenda environment, because procurement is always needed to be involved in projects that are, changing the way companies do things. And so you're always at the heart of the change agenda as well, which makes it an exciting, dynamic career.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. We've supported local sixth form colleges alongside SIPs in presenting procurement as a career path, and it's great to sort of see the younger audience actually sort of having their minds kind of sort of just set on a journey really and a path. And the more we can do of this, the more we make the profession attractive and accessible, which is what this is all about, really, ultimately.
It's one of the most profound things that come to me. Maybe about 15 years ago, when I was CPO at the boots business, and we brought in about 12 or 14 high school kids who traveled around the boots business doing different functions. And I remember them arriving into procurement for the day, not really realizing what procurement did. But then in the session at the end of the day, of the 14, I think 6 or 7 of them decided they wanted to have a career in procurement. They had never heard about it, they never understood it, but when they had talked to all the various category managers and the things that they get up to, it really sparked something in them that excited them. And I think that sort of brought it home to me then, that we need to do more in the education establishments to help people understand what procurement as a career can do for you,
Yeah.
And so, we have to do more in that regard.
Agreed. I think we should all have it on our agendas, and we definitely feel that it's part of our purpose. We have to have that sort of social good piece about what we do. I know we all want to look beyond COVID-19 and coronavirus, and I know you and I have discussed this already, but briefly, do you think you could just summarize for people listening the role that the procurement function played in enabling the company to face the pandemic?
Yeah, well, the pandemic landed on everyone pretty quickly. And I think, as I said earlier, we were in a business that had to grow dramatically and manage what was excess, a lot more capacity come into our channel. As entertainment closed down, restaurants, cafes, as people work from home, people seen it as panic buying, but actually, it wasn't really about panic buying. There was a huge amount of volume overnight come into the grocery sector because everybody's weekly shop now, you were no longer eating out or having your lunch at work. And so that in itself brought a lot of supply chain management, talking around the world. But more importantly to that, of course, there was a health and safety element to it, that in order to keep our colleagues safe and customers safe, overnight we had to stand up a complete reinvention of the way customers travel through our supermarkets. So I'll give you an example. On the Thursday, I think it was probably about March 23rd, 21st, 23rd, we decided we needed to put some screens into our stores. Over the weekend, we prototyped it. On Tuesday, we had the first sample signed off, and we were rolling out 20,000 screens by the following Thursday. So that normally would have taken probably 2 to 3 months, and we started rolling within a week. We'd finished it 6 weeks later with 20,000 screens installed. And that was just one of 100+ projects that had to happen. PPE, likewise, grocery online. Pre-pandemic, we were doing about 300,000 a week. Grocery online deliveries, click and collect. Today, we're doing over 800,000. So we had to stand up that capacity, and that's all the operational procurement that needed to happen to make that happen, and many, many more. So it was all hands to the pump. We were making quick decisions, all with the focus of customer safety, colleague safety, and making sure that we fed the nation, because the government had a campaign that we needed to keep grocery going and people feel confident that they would be safe, but also that they would be able to get access to food. And that's what the grocery sector had to do. And in testament to the earlier point we talked about supply chain agility, there was no shortages. The grocery sector managed to, and its supply chain managed to take all that additional capacity and very quickly, in an agile way, react to it and be able to deliver for customers. And I think that is quite testament to the day-to-day management in our business and other grocery competitors, how good the supply chains actually are from an agility and sourcing perspective, and big up to the vendor base who reacted amazingly well and to deliver that with a lot of clever things went on behind the scenes to make that happen.
Well, our thanks as consumers for everything that Sainsbury's has done through that. So it's a really impressive turnaround. I think, thinking about supply security, this is probably my last question on this point. Given all the challenges with the last year, what sort of initiatives has Sainsbury's taken to secure supply?
Well, as I said, many different industries have different issues. I hear people talking about we need to nearshore our supply chains now because the pandemic has created huge problems. But as I say, we source from over 60, 70 countries worldwide. First thing I would say is, bananas and pineapples will only ever come from a certain number of countries. You have no option, so you need to be able to source from that. French wine will only ever come from France, But the fact is that our supply chain stood up exceptionally well. Now, we do dual source, so we have options. We have a very robust, domestic supply chain around our agricultural side. We don't just source products. We partner with farmers. We partner with fish farms. We partners with we work on the development of the future supply chains of those companies. And so you're not just switching on and off supply. You're actually building in a real partnership model that in the good times is brilliant, and also in the difficult times. Recently, it stood the test of time and the agility that brings. Looking to things we've had, Brexit, of course, has been a separate issue, and of course we've had to take a number of short-term measures there to secure supply. We all believe that there would be some element of disruption, and I'm pleased to say that there has been limited disruption. There is a number of issues, but in the scale of what people were projecting a year ago, this has been pretty good. So actually, we haven't had to do an awful lot more in terms of securing supply. Just we're talking more frequently with our vendors. We're looking at what their issues are. We're making sure that we're all working together. Payment terms would be an example. Supporting each other from cash flow perspective, because not everybody sources directly with Sainsbury's. They'll have other customers, and so we have to be cognizant of what else is happening with those vendors across their other customer base and help out where it makes sense, to do so for them and for us.
Really interesting. Sort of with that in mind, I guess I would imagine that the P&L, the shape of the P&L of supermarkets and Sainsbury's in particular will have changed quite considerably with increased transport and logistics costs as a consequence of this. Has your team got involved in that?
Oh yeah, no, we buy all the logistics for all of the food and the products, the shipping costs. I wouldn't say there's been too much change in terms of inbound logistics and so forth. I think there's been COVID-related costs, which you have to believe are exceptional and one-offs, and it's in the public domain. The level of investment we've had to put into our supermarkets, is hundreds of millions of pounds to make sure they're safe and secure for customers and colleagues. And also, we haven't taken any government funding along that way of any nature. So that has had an immediate impact on our profitability. I think Brexit to a point, I'll come on to Brexit, but I think there is a short-term issue around deep sea shipping in terms of the dynamics of containers. And we're seeing some short-term spikes in the rates we get. But we were very good in locking out sort of contracts. Again, we're a large importer of containers around the world, and so we have some good partnership models and long haul. So no immediate impact. And we're projecting that the global market will stabilize over the next 6 to 12 months as the containers get back into the right locations of the world. At the moment, there's a lot coming from the east into the west, but the boxes are going back empty, and so that's driving up the inbound cost of shipping. But apart from that, no, we're really in a good place, and we always have a transformation going on inside Sainsbury's anyway, and I actually lead on behalf of the business sort of the cost transformation of the group. So we're not seeing any dramatic changes to that going forward in our P&L assumptions.
Good. I think lastly, I think it would be lovely for our audience just to understand you, get to know you a little bit more. We touched on it earlier, but what do you do in your spare time, Patrick?
There's only one person who knows. Well, there's two people who know that: my mother and my wife. And even my wife sometimes questions if she knows me. It's funny actually. I don't think my mother actually knows in 30 years what I do. Actually, it's quite funny when we talk about it. But when I say I buy things for Sainsbury's, she says, "Well, everybody buys things at Sainsbury's, typical Irish mother, she always keeps me grounded in reality." So what I do, I just enjoy life, as I said earlier, and I love my weekends. I do work weekends when I have to, but I try and avoid it. But I'm a football referee. I've been a football coach for 15, 20 years. I've had 3 sons grow up, but now I'm a referee, so I continue the madness that is being abused on a Saturday morning by parents and adults alike. But I do it for fitness, but I also like football. I do a lot of skiing. I like travel. I've traveled the world for 30 years with my job. But I still have a buzz for travel wherever I can get it. And I love just exploring different. I've lived in Chicago for a while. I've lived in Hong Kong. Just traveling. When I'm out living in these places, I travel around and just meet new people and just that exploration of life in general. I'm looking forward to retirement someday soon. In a sense, I do want to travel the world. There's other things I want to do, and my wife won't let me though. She just she's not having it at this stage. So that's a negotiation I haven't won yet. So I have to try and achieve that.
You've got to play a long-term goal there, Patrick.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I'll wear her down hopefully over time, and she might let me retire someday. But I have a place over in the west of Ireland, so I go there a lot when I can. Believe it or not, I've tried wakeboarding and canoeing and all the water sports, but my sons would say I'm a bit of an embarrassment when they see me on a wakeboard or a pair of skis. I like skiing as well. So anything that gets me outside and is a bit exciting and dynamic.
Fantastic. And I think just lastly, if you could give your younger self a piece of advice, what would it be?
have a little look in the rear view mirror a little bit more often, and just reflect where you've come from. I'm always looking ahead and going forward. As someone once said, have you seen the devastation you've left behind you? That was one of my, at Nissan, a great manager of mine. I was 24, 26, driving lots of results. And he said, and I was expecting an amazing performance review because I was delivering lots. And he just said to me calmly, he says, have you ever looked in your rear view mirror to see what you've left behind? And it was quite profound,
Yeah.
So I would say a couple of pieces of advice. I'd say, look in your rear view mirror a little bit more, see where you've come from, what you've achieved, but also making sure that you've left a good base behind you. And don't take yourself too seriously. It isn't always about results. It isn't always about you. When you're in your 20s, you think it's all about you and your career. And, actually, it very much is about the team, and it is about the people around you, because they are the ones that'll really make you most successful. Results will come and go. People will forget your results. They'll never forget you. And let's hope that what they don't forget is a great impression rather than a bad impression. So yeah, I'm sure others would give the younger me even more advice, but that would be lovely to hear someday as well, actually.
Indeed, it would. And on that profound note, I'd like to say, Patrick Dunne, thank you hugely for taking part in our big interview.
Thanks a lot,
And
Rupert. It was really nice talking to you.